What's up, y'all? It's Monday. Another beautiful Mental Man Monday live stream. And we are back. Told you I gotta be consistent because the live streams really have been a saving grace for the YouTube channel. I think I told y'all that. Like they really didn't what elevated the view of the channel. So me falling off did hurt. And I noticed it's crazy. I noticed that when I fell off, but I said I gotta go back to doing this every single day, every Monday. Like no excuse, out of town, do it. Just put the little background up, make it look like I'm, somewhere, but we just do it like that. We got a lot of things to talk about today. It's another topic I wasn't gonna speak on, but I'm gonna throw it in there for a hot second. We're not gonna do the full shebang with it, but we're just gonna briefly speak on it. I have a guest today. Now, back when I first started the live streams, it was a new person every Monday. Like people you ain't never seen before. Some of them people still ain't been on the actual full podcast yet. Some of them have ended up transitioning to the regular episodes, and some are still pending. One, he's still my first ever live stream, and his YouTube channel so crazy. I ain't heard from him, But I love that for him because his channel is doing good and he actually has good content. But today I have somebody who also is a podcast host and somebody who I think is one of those people I feel like has a lot of good things to say. I feel like me personally, just from the little things that I've seen, I think that he's one of those people where I feel like he's like a hidden gem. Like people really ain't caught on yet, but I feel like when they do, but we're going to get into that today. So let me go ahead and introduce my guest and then we're going to get the ball rolling. My guy, what's going on?
What's good?
So, obviously on this live stream, people can see your name, but can you tell the people what's your name, where you from, and where you live now?
Jaleel Wavey. I am from Rockford, Illinois, and I currently live in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay. Now, you already said you was a podcast host. Can you tell people about your podcast? Who does it cater to? How did you get started? All that good stuff.
Man. So podcast name Unconventional AF with Jaleel Wavey. And right now it's just a solo show. It's just me all by myself, just talking about the latest news and pop culture. Sometimes I talk about mental health and I keep it real short. I try to do 15 minutes. I try to get it to 10 or under just because I don't want to be on there rambling by myself too much. So I try to keep it short and sweet.
Okay. And what is it? Streams on YouTube? Is it stream everywhere? How does it?
Full episodes are available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and then I post clips online on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube.
Okay. So yeah, we kind of already see kind of just like a setup for how the conversation is gonna go. So with the whole solo thing, and I tell people all the time, like there are people who listen to solo episodes, so a solo podcast. So don't feel like, oh, it gotta be short, because I know people millions of streams and it's just them talking for over an hour. So
yeah,
keep that in mind. And even if you do incorporate guests, don't let go of solo completely. So keep that in mind. Now, I sent you over, the most recent episode I did about sleeping on potential. Talked about real life therapy, Jonathan Otto, not Otto, like the car. Did you get a chance to check out the episode and tell me your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I listened to the whole thing. I know you said, oh, I don't have to listen to the whole thing, but I'm like, you know what? Let me actually watch it, see what's going on, the potential stuff. And then he also talked about the diet and he mentioned the gluten-free, and I'm gluten-free. So that really hit with me. So I was like, overall, I thought it was helpful, especially when you're trying to tap in. Like if you don't know what you got going on and you're just trying to figure it out, I feel like that could really help people that's seeking something.
Thank you, sir. And it's funny because you say that the gluten thing and how that aligned. So why are you gluten free?
I have a chronic illness. I have Crohn's disease.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you heard him talk about Lyme's disease in that episode then.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, that's interesting. It's good to know because, diets, the changing of a diet has to be changed, to saving people's lives. And a lot of people don't know that. And I like how you said you probably never even heard of my podcast before. You might have seen the clips here and there, but you've tapped them. Okay, I see the goal, because my goal for my podcast is to help young millennial men who struggle making healthy decisions, mental health conscious millennial men. So for that episode, sleeping on potential, but also the diet. Then he talked about, I liked in that episode because what we did talk about, it was marketed like we talked about Charlie Kirk. We really didn't talk about him. But what happened was the episode, as we were about to start rolling, as I was about to start recording, we had just found out he had just died. So even some of the undertones of the conversations was on that, because as you see, he talked about being a Christian and a believer and just saying how so many people rejoiced at his passing. And it's like, that's not okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even if you don't agree with how somebody says something, that's perfectly fine. But to be rejoicing at that publicly is wild. And then having a Bible verse in your bio is just like, come on now, what we doing? What I did notice about that episode too was at the beginning of the episode, I actually forgot that I had in my happy hour segment, I had the rant, and I made the comment about, which talking about solo, because although most of my episodes feature guests, I still do have solo episodes, but the happy hour segment is dedicated to still keep that piece of me that has this solo, because the way I talk solo is different with a guest. And just making a comment about so many people I know personally, like, oh, I'm gonna start this, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna get this together. And I was like, just do it. Stop asking for people to justify what you were called to do. Just do it. Like, if it don't work, it don't work, but it's gonna take some time. I just found out today. Well, they always say it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. Did you know Hulu had been out since 2007? I never knew that.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard like Hulu used to be really good back in the day. I mean, a lot of this stuff, man, you'd be surprised by how many apps and like stores, if you're from like a smaller town, a random store just pop up, but it's like, no, that store been around for a long time in New York and LA. It's like, yeah, people lay groundwork or foundation before they make it. I've been doing my stuff for 10 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Your podcast?
So I work in the broadcast industry. So I work in news and I work in radio. Yeah. And I got my first radio job in 2015. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty much just been a roller coaster ride from hell, to be honest. But so like this year, 2025, I've reached 10 years. And now I rediscovered myself when it comes to podcasting, because before I just wanted to interview people. I never wanted to be by myself. I always wanted a co-host. And being in Charlotte, not knowing anybody, and then struggling to find guests, can't find anybody that want to co-host with me and take it seriously. But I don't want to sit around and wait for somebody to tell me, yeah. I'm like, all right, I got to figure this out on my own. So I just been doing it by myself. And now it's like, oh, I actually enjoy it. I found my rhythm, and I'm seeing momentum on TikTok.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I try to post 2 clips on my podcast page a day. But what I will say with that is keep doing it. And the thing is too, if you do want to have a consistent guest or don't feel like you have to embed that into the current podcast, y'all can do a whole another podcast. It doesn't have to be, you know what I'm saying? That's the thing too. People can do 2 different things. So you can have 2 podcasts at once. So you know what I mean? So keep that in mind too, because like I said, I think that you one of them people, it's called unconventional. You lean into that, but I think you need to lean into it even more, because you're a very unconventional person, and you need to make it to where people they see it, but they need to really be like, yeah, that's that one nigga. He little, that's what they need to be saying. And I think that you right there, because like I said, to make it in this industry, you have to be unique. And some people either got it or they don't, and you definitely got it. So
I appreciate that.
No, for sure. Because I started my podcast 2018. So when they be saying all them comments about all these podcasts, no. I was doing it before the wave. So people didn't even know what a podcast was. They was like, what's a podcast? What's that? So I'm like,
man. Yeah. I started my first podcast back home in Rockford in 2018.
Yeah. See, that was before.
Yeah. Like you said, 2018, nobody knew what a podcast was. I had to go on Facebook and explain to people this is like talk radio. Nobody knew what a podcast was at that time.
Yeah, because I remember my daddy, my stepmama, they kept trying to say, yeah, you need to go get a radio show. I'm like, radio's becoming obsolete. And if you ain't no big star or you ain't, the Breakfast Club or you wasn't already in that industry for radio, it's become obsolete. Like, it's just not, it's slowly dying.
Yeah. I work in radio, so I know it's hard as hell.
Yeah, it's not what it used to be.
Opportunities are not there.
Yeah, you had to be a star already. But to end off this segment before we move to the first topic, I think that ending off with the episode, and you know what, I'll do this as we end off that discussion. I think that the episode, like I said, it was needed. I like that episode because the thing with my podcast, if I don't know if you tune in the other ones, although the goal is still the same, how we go about it is different. So there might be an episode where it's a little fun, but I add some seriousness to it. And then there's episodes where they're more like the last one that's more serious, but I add some fun to it. So just make sure they have both. But that was the last 2 weeks have been a little more serious. But this week, the episode dropped, and I actually recorded live in Atlanta with some people, some friends I made at PodFest this year in Orlando. And I recorded in Atlanta. We talked about tricking and how that relates to mental health. People don't know how it does, but I got a whole episode on it. So that's going to be this week's episode. That'll be a little more fun and a lot of jokes in that one. But as we're talking about Charlie Kirk and everybody, how they felt about him, there's somebody else. Like I said, we won't stay on him long, but I do want to briefly discuss Diddy. Now, a lot of my live streams, if you look at it, go back, a lot of them had him and Donald Trump I talked about the most. So I'm trying to don't get it twisted. They help with the views, but I don't want to keep just going back over them. But he was sentenced to, what was it?
50 months.
50 months in jail, and the viral picture of him going around crying and all sad about it. I mean, honestly, I think it could have been worse, right?
Oh, for sure. I believe he should have got more time. So it definitely could have been worse.
It was just, I mean, he don't want to be in jail, but I feel like he gonna be in and be out. Now I don't know when he come out, he gonna come out with a vengeance, but so, maybe, I don't know. He might get in jail and get saved. Who knows? We'll see. But I'll be interested to see what happens with that. But it's unfortunate. And let me finish. It's unfortunate that he's the only one that's going down for it because it's not just him. It's so many other people that's a part of that who are probably like thanking God it wasn't them. But I feel like he gonna come out and he taking everybody down. That's just what I think.
I was one of the people that was really invested into the whole Diddy trial. I watched a lot of documentaries. I couldn't wait for the trial to start. I couldn't wait for the sentencing. And DJ Vlad, I don't know how you feel about him. I watched a lot of the interviews he did with the prostitutes that was a part of the freak-offs with him and Cassie. And a lot of them said Cassie was a willing participant. And one of them is actually suing Cassie for some other stuff. I don't remember exactly what it was, and I don't want to say it because I have it on my head. I just don't want to say it. But he's basically suing her because he's like, she was just a part of it. Is him.
Well, I didn't even know DJ Vlad interviewed the prostitutes. But
a lot of them.
Were they all men?
Yeah, they were all men.
Okay.
Now, they said they didn't do anything with Diddy. They said it was just them and Cassie, and Diddy would watch.
But honestly, even if they did that, he might, and not saying and to dig it up to make it super, he probably would have made them sign something if they did personally. That's what I believe. But then maybe not. Nah,
bro. They was telling everything. And a lot of them said that there was a couple of them that said there was some weird instances where they thought maybe he was trying something, but they didn't go for it.
Oh, so they said okay, never mind.
Well, maybe he made like a weird comment or something, maybe to like test the waters or something, and they was like no, and then he just stopped. Like he didn't go past whatever he said.
Okay, all right. Well, So, well, hey, I'm not surprised. The whole situation was freaked out. It is what it was. That's why it's called a freak off. It's just unfortunate. Like I said, he going down for everybody because I hate to be that person, but it's still a distraction. It's a distraction from something else. Something else they trying to get us focused on that we missing out on. And I still believe that there's other people that was a part of that all of these people magically left early from the party. Shut up. And all these interviews, y'all, I left early. No, you
Well, a
didn't.
lot of those people that testified got immunity, so that's pretty much how they got Diddy by himself. Like I said, bro, I was on the Diddy case, bro. Like if I was in New York, I would have been outside
Like
trying to
Lauren
get into
LaRosa.
the courtroom, bro. I was really into it, so I know probably too much about the Diddy case, bro. I was into it.
Yeah, you would have been like Lauren LaRosa because she was out there on the.
I was following her too. I was following a lot of journalists and reading articles. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was into it.
Okay, okay. So we're gonna leave Diddy alone because, like I said, we really didn't want to talk about him today. But it's two topics I want to talk about. So the first one is about Kyren Lacy. Now, Kyren Lacy, for those that forgot, um, he was a football player who actually unalived himself. This was LSU's wide receiver who unalived himself. And I wasn't going to speak on it, but because I did speak on it a few months ago about him unaliving himself because of a fatal car crash, now it's some evidence that appeared basically implying that he might not have, it might not have been his fault. And this story is close to me for several reasons. So we're going to watch, we're going to share my screen, and then I'm going to go over the information that I found on Baller Alert. I think it was it Baller Alert? Yeah. So, all right. So it says he may not have caused fatal crash. New evidence suggests police coach witness and cut body cams. So the case of former LSU wide receiver, it continues to unravel in ways that left both the fans and legal experts stunned. One accused of causing a fatal crash that killed a Louisiana woman. New evidence has surfaced suggesting that Lacy may not have been at fault at all and that the investigation and his actions might have been compromised from the start. So outlets saying they saw newly obtained video proof the late athlete's car was 70 yards behind the crash that claimed the woman's life. Footage, which now has been publicly shared by Lacy's legal team, appears to show that he did not directly collide with the victim's vehicle. His attorney maintains that Lacy driver was not part of the accident. The police exaggerated his role in the crash. He was facing vehicular homicide before his death, but his defense state's case was built on weak, possibly manipulated testimony. Is what had happened after the crash that drawn even more scrutiny. So some of the comments was like, did you see the footage? Man, wasn't even close to it. Who runs this account? Sue everybody for everything. He did not. Everyone lied. Should go to prison. And yeah, did you know anything about this case at all from some months ago?
No, I saw it going around today with the video and everything. But when you say he unalived himself, I did not know that.
Yeah, so let's get into the first segment for the day, which is what does this have to do with mental health? And as we know, that is the study of how we act, think, and feel, right? It's unfortunate because I actually had a homeboy who unalived himself in 2021. Nobody saw it coming. And he did something similar. It was an accident he was in, and he was already fighting a case. And it was an accident. He was also intoxicated. So I believe in his mind, he probably thought like, he was already going through a fight in this one case, and like I'm about to get another one that could possibly go to jail. And then it was just like, and the weight of the world was already on him with others, so we didn't know about. And I think there's just the pressure. But when we all thought about worst case scenario, and unfortunately he's gone, but a lot of times the worst case that we create in our heads never happens. And even if he did go to jail for all of that, worst case, he wouldn't have been in jail longer than 3 years. And that's worse. You know what I mean? That's absolute extreme. And even with this Kyren Lacy thing, I believe he felt like the weight of the world was on him. And he was like, I had to go. I didn't unalive somebody. And they saying it's his fault. Young black athlete, they always pick on them anyway. And the pressure and the weight of the world, which led him to unalive himself. And so it's unfortunate. And I want this before I go any deeper, I want this to be a reiteration to anybody listening. whatever you're going through, you think it's the end of the world. Trust me. One, it could probably be worse, but two, the worst case you didn't create it in your mind not gonna happen. Yeah. And so when we do that, and is this again somebody who used to struggle with suicide ideation many years ago, and for many years at that.
Me too.
Okay, so you understand, and do you still struggle with those things now?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, yeah. We're gonna talk about that.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about it, but I understand. So I understand being in it. I know what it feels like. I'm not just going off of paperwork, you know what I mean, or what I read online. I know what it feels like, and you feel like it just would be better off with you not being here, or maybe you should just go ahead and go. But I'm telling you, when you get to the other side of whatever you was worried about in that moment, you'll be so thankful you didn't do it, because it's so many people. I don't know if you saw my episode, I don't know it, and I'm gonna send it to you, but I had an episode where it was a solo episode before this last one that dropped about it's crazy we talking about this, is unaliving yourself, selfish, and it was a part 2 to my 2021 episode, is suicide selfish. And by technical definition, which I broke down in both episodes, no, it's not. But we talked about Kevin Hines. Have you ever heard of Kevin Hines, suicide survivor?
No.
So he actually jumped from the Golden Gate Bridge
and survived.
Yes.
Oh wow.
And he said I don't want to tell all the story because I kind of recapped it a little bit in my episode, and then one of my clients who I do his podcast, he was on there and just closed his whole story. But one thing he says, when he actually jumped, he said he instantly said, "Why am I doing this?" But at that point,
it's too late.
People split second. He was like, "Why am I doing this?" But it's too late. Now he survived to live to tell the tale, but that's how most people, once they do it and they in the heat of it, like, why did I do this? But at that point, it's too late. So I hope anybody who's struggling with that keep that in mind. But I just really feel bad for him because Kyren, now it's coming out that it wasn't his fault. What's your feels on that?
Man, it's crazy that you bring up suicide. I'm actually reading a book right now that my friend wrote called Before You Leave. And I'm doing an Instagram live with him on Monday about it. So it's crazy that this is the topic for today. Is it the question about suicide being selfish?
Well, we can talk really however you want to go with it. Like, what's just your take on this situation as far as with mental health wise, which is, again, by definition, the study of how we act, think, and feel.
Yeah. As a person that sometimes deal with those thoughts, it's not as bad as it used to be. Yeah. I don't think it's selfish, because people don't realize, when you are going through these things, you really feel like it's not going to get better.
Yeah.
And that's why we end it, because we don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know if you heard about Regina King and her son.
Yeah.
Where she basically said she respected his decision because if he felt like it was his time to go, she had to make peace with that.
Yeah.
And I remember in 2014, I want to say, I come from a single mom. And my mom had just bought her first house. And I was going through a dark time. But I remember being like, well, I'm not going to do this right now because I don't want to basically rain on my mom's parade because she's happy that she bought this house. So I'm not going to do that to her because now she's going to be in this house by herself when this was supposed to be a house for both of us. So I didn't go through with it. And, pandemic, that was also a rough time for me. So I think for me, I never went through it because I'm just like, what's on the other side if I do this?
Yeah.
At least if I'm still alive, I know I can make it better.
Yeah.
Or at least try. But I don't know what's on the other side if I take my own life.
Let's move to the next segment for the day. WWID. What would I do in this situation? So currently where I'm at now, that situation would have, if I was Kyren Lacy, that would have pushed me into prayer like never before. And I'd be praying, but that would have really did it, because to see these months later when he did what he did, and it's just like, dang, it's over with. And to see this come back up and to now say it wasn't even his fault is crazy. And now he done lost his life and it's nothing you can do about it. And it's just like, it's just to me a reinforcement of, if you feeling that way and you really contemplate anybody, just hold out, because you just never know. You think it's set in stone with this, but then, I mean, and realistically, I think with the case, if I remember correctly, he probably would have went to jail for a little bit, but he would have been able to let him free. It still wouldn't want to be in there, but
that probably was the tip, though, like the tip of the
yeah,
iceberg, where it's like you was already dealing with something before, and this was just like, okay, this is just too much. Because if you're in a situation like that and you feel like, okay, I know I'm not in the wrong, you probably would like, all right, let me weigh it out, get a lawyer, and try to fight it. But he probably was already dealing with so much, and that's just what pushed him over the edge. That's what I would think.
Yeah, I think that too. And I think too is like, and I've been in situations, one recently, where I got accused of doing something, which has happened to me a lot. I got accused of doing something I didn't do. And it was just like, and it's hard to do that, but you have to be at peace knowing the truth will always come out. And unfortunately, it may not come out when. Now, of course, there's an extreme case that you unalive somebody, because that's a lot. But, allegedly thought you did, and was pushed to believe that you did. But the beauty of a situation is, even if they come out 5 months, 5 days, 5 years, 50 years, you have to be at peace knowing the truth is going to come out it's going to come out. And it's unfortunate. I mean, another extreme, we going kind of there today, Emmett Till. You know what I'm saying? It came, of course, it was too late for his life, but it came out that it was false afterwards. And it's just like, and in that situation, you want to lie for somebody, allegedly, that's what you thought. How do you sleep at night? You thinking, I didn't did this, I didn't took somebody, and
I couldn't imagine going through that.
Yeah.
Even if it's not my fault, the fact that I was even a part of that. I'm pretty sure. Like, if it's like my mental health is not the strongest. So if I was in a situation where somebody died, even if it's not my fault, like, I don't know how I would deal with that, because I don't ever want to be a part of that type of pain.
Yeah, for sure. WWJD, what would Jesus do? So what is the ethically and morally correct thing to do in this situation? So both sides of the ball. If I was in this situation and say I was still struggling with suicidal ideation, so going back to that mindset, because again, I remember how it was, and to already be feeling that way and think like, dang, what, for me, what ended up really happening, what really got me out of it, was around 2016, and a real bad situation happened, and I was isolated from everybody because I had to be. It was too much going on. And I remember thinking, one day I woke up because I was still feeling bad with suicide, and I was like, I am tired of feeling like this. And so that's when I actually went to therapy. Most time, I tell people all the time, therapy is if you have a salary job, most of these jobs cover therapy. Most.
Mine does.
Schools, a lot of these schools cover therapy. I was in Texas Southern at the time, and they, even back then, they covered it. And of course, with all the stuff going on now, they'd be trying, if they didn't cover it then, they might now. If you are in college, enroll, go see if your fees cover, so go check and see. But for me, it was a combination of me growing my relationship with God and going to therapy simultaneously. So if I was still feeling that way, me personally, because everybody's different, I would be like, let me try to go to the therapist, figure it out, and then, of course, doing what I can at home. Now, going to the other side of it, me not feeling that way now, but if I was in a situation, small or big, extreme, where I was accused of doing something and it was public shame that came with it, but I know I didn't do it, I would literally, this is what I would do. I would literally go on TikTok and go down the rabbit hole. It sounds a little crazy. Of all the situations where somebody was accused of something that they didn't do and it came out that they were vindicated. Because there are many cases, like big public cases and small ones, where people were vindicating some crazy stories. I literally just talked about today this older white man. It was in Baltimore. It was a voice recording of him saying some racist stuff, and they put him on a leave. And he was like, I didn't say it. That wasn't me. That wasn't me. Everybody like, you're crazy. That was you. Why did it come out? An old employee paid an AI thing, took his voice and did that. And nobody believed him. And he was still saying, y'all, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. And it came out, he didn't do it.
That's crazy.
People crazy.
The AI.
So yeah, AI is scary. I just seen on Instagram, Michael Jackson and Tupac was on FaceTime.
Did you see the video with one of the Paul brothers that's supposed to be fighting Tank? He had posted a video of them kissing at the weigh-in, and it looked so real. Obviously, you know it's not real because they're not gonna kiss, but it was like that looks too real.
AI is a lot. Even the cat videos, them ones be funny, I ain't gonna lie. But you be seeing them and they be doing like stupid stuff like pouring acid and punching people. It's stupid. But that's in that situation what I think would be the case. WSMD, what should men do in this situation as we end it off? What would be something for you if you could jump out of body and say you were in Kyren Lacy's situation, say it was before the decision was made that he made, or what comfort would you give to anybody who was in a situation where they feel like they couldn't get out of it?
I would probably tell them to get off of social media.
Yeah.
And go be with your family. Don't leave your family side. Because if you're paying attention to social media, there's nothing but mean people on social media. You know, they hide behind their phones and they can say whatever and they can make you feel like the worst. So yeah, I would like get off of social media and just go be surrounded by your family.
That's actually great to do. Like if that's something like that happened to me, I'm from St. Louis. So like I live in Houston, but that's a good idea. Like if something like that was happening, you was just, and I live alone. So say I was just, I don't contemplate that anymore, but just the case of, let me just go be around love and let me just be in their presences. And even if they upstairs and I'm downstairs, or, they went to the store, I'm still in that space to just help me out in a situation like that. I think that's a great idea. So if you can, just go be around family, just be in their presence. And that would help a lot. It really would. Because, and even then, it doesn't save everybody, but anybody who does struggle with that, it's like, if you're around these people on a regular basis, it's going to be make it harder to make that decision if that's something you still contemplate. So yeah, I hope that he, even in his, passing, his family gets justice, because that's wild that man did that, and now it's coming out. That's so messed up. All right, good stuff. Okay, now for the final topic for today, it's a little lighter. It's still kind of heavy, but a little lighter. It's a little bit. Tyler Lepley, P-Valley Star, Ruth and Boaz, and what's that other show he was on Amazon with Megan Good? Harlem. He was recently on the Baby This Is Keke Palmer podcast, and he talked about what it was like growing up as the only black person in his family.
I saw that clip.
So we about to look at that clip, and then we about to unpack that, because I found that interesting, and I actually have a lot to say about that. So let's watch it.
You grew up as the only black person in your family.
Yeah, for sure.
So how was that experience?
Now, the one thing my parents did just the best job in the world at was making sure I had that foundation of love, and that was enough to give me the springboard to go figure out who I was.
Yeah. I know you grew up in Philly, but like, what kind of school did you go to? Was it a diverse school? Did you at least have some?
All white.
Really?
So my best friend, I'm in second grade, my best friend, third grade. I'm on the bus and he says, do you know what a is?
Oh my gosh.
He was saying,
not do I know.
Do you know what one is? I said, before I could say no, he said, that's what you are.
It's you.
It's
yeah.
Oh. Bus stop. He got off the bus. He said, all right, I'm gonna holler at you tomorrow.
Just
informing me.
Did he have
just
the end?
informing.
I'm gonna holler at you tomorrow.
Nah, he didn't say that. So I just remember processing that on the ride home. Like,
I know. And had you heard the word before?
No, but I felt it.
You knew,
I knew
yeah.
something was wrong.
That word is very
So then I remember about
charged.
Bruh. It's something about white kids and having them as a best friend in elementary school, teaching you words that you have no business knowing. Because I had a white best friend in elementary school, and he taught me the word vagina, and he said it in the accent.
In the accent?
He said it in the accent. He would be like, vagina.
Where
And
was
I
he
ain't
from?
hell, the same little town I was from.
Hold on. All right. What does this have to do with mental health? Okay. So that's funny because I was around people that look like me, and there was a little ghetto. So I wasn't, but they was. And so I didn't go to school with people that weren't. Okay. So from kindergarten really preschool through sixth grade, I went to around a bunch of hood figures. And then middle school, I went to a small K through 8 school. And I was only there from 7th and 8th grade, but it was a K through 8 school. And like it was like sixth graders, 12, 7th graders, 14, 8th grade. It was very small, but it was predominantly white. And I remember, first of all, nobody knows this. I never talk about this publicly. I actually forgot until the day. I was the 8th grade class president. I straight forgot about that. And in 7th grade, I knew I had influence because I taught white people about Flavor Love. Because coming from the black school, how old are you?
31. Oh, I know all about Flavor of Love.
We're the same age. Okay. So when I was in 6th grade at the black school, that's when the first season was out.
Yes.
7th grade, that's when the second season was out. So I remember coming to school and I was talking to one of the black girls about Flavor Love. And all the white kids like, what show are y'all talking about? What show are y'all talking about? I was like, y'all don't watch Flavor Love? They're like, oh, what's that? I don't know what ended up happening, but the next few days, they, I guess, went home and watched it. And then from every episode, we talked about it. Then when when I Love New York came up, it was crazy. And I learned early that's when I had influence. That's when I had influence. When I got them white people to watch Flavor Love. And one of them gonna see this and she gonna laugh because we still send each other memes to this day about it. But mental health wise, there was one girl I remember because the thing with sometimes with they say things like your friend and like Tyler Lepley said, that guy, and they are either offensive or racist, and in their mind they don't realize that it is, and they think it's okay, and they just don't. They have no couth. And they just don't get it. Like they think that this is all right. And you like, that's not okay. And I remember I used to always tell this one girl, like when they would say like little stuff, because like even when I was a teacher for a bit, and it was, in Houston, it's a lot of, Hispanics, and the blacks and the Mexicans would, because mainly Mexicans, but there's of course a few other ones, Salvador and all that. And I remember they would say things to each other that was racist. And I'm like, that's racial jokes not funny to me. Mm-hmm. And I get that's how y'all play, but I just feel like one day you already irritating somebody say something, it's gonna take it there. And I used to tell the black kids, I'm like, stop letting them Hispanic kids call y'all niggas.
I'm not gonna lie, being from the Midwest, the Hispanic kids would say nigga and we would do nothing about it.
Well, see, St. Louis didn't have Hispanics like that. Like it was very black and white. So
yeah, I grew up with a lot of Hispanics.
Okay. And the thing is, I said we gonna see this where we clown it. See, it was a little hard earlier. We a little lighter now. I said, don't nobody say the N-word harder than a biracial. And I don't know what it is, but they say it every other word. And I was at the gym the other day, and it was this Hispanic dude. He was saying nigga every other word. I'm like, all right, let me move around because you tripping. Like, why are you saying every other word? Like, you're not. What are you doing?
Yeah, I will say now as an adult, I would be like, why are you saying that? Mm-hmm. But yeah, as a kid, I definitely remember them saying it, and it was just like the norm.
And for me, it's weird because like some Hispanics I don't trip off of because like if you really go back in a diaspora, Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, they black. Yeah. It's the Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, and Cubans that look like us. Yeah. So they just now starting to claim it, but they black. So it's like, and it's just like, it just really depends on for me, the situation. But like in a place I know, like New York, you just gotta let that fly. Cause it's like, but going back to the situation, Tyler Lepley said how he felt. Did you empathize with how he felt? Did you feel the same way? Well, he didn't call you an N-word, but have you ever had somebody not black call you the N-word and you kind of was like,
no, not that I can think of. Mm-hmm. Yeah, nothing that I can think of. Like I said, I grew up where my first few best friends were white, and they would do some weird stuff. That same kid that taught me the word vagina would also snort like cocoa powder at the lunchroom table. And then when I ran into him again in high school, he told me he was homeless. So clearly he had a lot more going on than the average kid.
The signs are always there. I think about Jeffrey Dahmer, and they talked about the signs of him like hurting animals and getting a rise out of it. Them was the signs early that he was going to probably be, because they even said in a documentary, if you do it to an animal, it's only a matter of time for you get that dopamine hit from seeing that animal squirm. You're going to want to see that from maybe a bigger animal. You might want to see it from a dog next. Then after the dog, you might want to see it. It's just like and so he playing around with the cocoa powder. It was only a matter of time before he did that. But moving to the next segment, I think that this is something we need to talk about because we don't talk about that much. Honestly, I picked this topic. I thought it was interesting, but it's really hitting the way this conversation is going. Like, what's it like being black? And I saw a comment and it said black people aren't meant for predominantly white spaces. I challenge that. I agree for comfort level.
Right.
Here's my thing. Comfort level, I agree, but I feel like okay. Because I'm kind of going against what I believe. And I believe that there are, certain things is true. And then it's like there's always an exception to the rule. So I believe that to be true, but then I believe there are exceptions to that rule. So,
Yeah, if you grew up around nothing but white people, then you're going to be comfortable in that. But for me, I grew up in the hood. And I would say I didn't grow up the biggest fan of us just because of my experience was the hood. And when you live in the ghetto, we don't tend to act right.
And then if you are kind of an eccentric, a little strange, you're not the normal black kid.
You get outcasted.
You're not the normal black kid. You get ostracized, and it's kind of like you feel out of place.
Yeah.
And again, I know what that's like too. So that's why it's like you kind of like. It's just like it's a lot. That's why I'm thankful I didn't go to the middle school or that school, and I went to where I went. But you definitely,
Yeah, I just think when you are black and you are just surrounded by. See, now I don't want to say the wrong thing, but like I just, as a black person that just genuinely loves being around my own people, I could never imagine being in a social space all the time because sometimes you just can't help it. Like if you have a white friend or a white coworker and you get invited to a wedding, you might be the only black person there. That happened to me.
Yeah.
But when it comes to my friends, my circle, the people that I want to be around all the time, I need the majority of them to be black.
Yeah.
Because that's where I'm most comfortable.
I see. I went to a HBCU. So, and I learned the different hierarchies of black people because we have that. And that's why I love black people.
Yeah.
But I'm thankful for my experiences because I've been around every type of person. I've even my high school was a lot of black folks and niggas because it's a difference at that school. But it was, it was a mixed school. And we even had foreign exchange students in my school. So I've been around a little bit of everybody, even before college. So that was,
See, my upbringing was just niggas. I remember when it came to trying to pick a college. I remember I went on a HBCU tour in middle school, and when I got to high school and it came to, thinking about what college you want to go to, I remember like I don't want to go to school with a bunch of black people because my experience was just not great. And now that I'm older and I'm around people that's more aligned with who I am because I live in a different city. When I go back home, I'm still looking at them like these niggas just won't grow up. Yeah. But where I'm at in my life now, I'm around people that's educated, people that have a lot going on. They taking care of themselves mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. It's a totally different ball game where it's like, okay, I'm in a different space and I see things differently. Where it's like, man, if I would have went to HBCU, like you said, I would have saw a different side of black people that I didn't grow up with. And that's one thing where it's like, man, I wish somebody could have told me differently. Because when I went to that tour, I really believe my mom was just trying to get me out the house for spring break. So when I got back home, she didn't tell me the importance of going to HBCU. There was no conversation after that. It was just like, oh, did you have fun? Yeah. And then that was it. So I didn't even understand the importance of an HBCU after that.
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna put it again. WWID, what would I do in this situation? So even with that, like the whole HBCU thing, and then I'm gonna speak on the other thing. I had a homeboy. He went to school with black people his whole career, and even he said he ended up going to PWI because he said I done been around black people all whole my life. I need some diversity, which I get that, because you do want to see what it's like to follow something a little different. Because and not just saying that you don't like your people, it's just like because it's still gonna be black people there. It's just in my case, it was just nobody but it was definitely, and I remember back in the day, they used to have the debates about, oh, well, being at an HBCU doesn't prepare you for the real world because you're not going to be around black people all day, every day. I'm like, I tried it, but not really, because even with me, when I was a teacher, I've worked at schools that felt like HBCU because all the teachers was black and majority of the students was black, so that's not
in Houston.
True.
So you live in Houston.
Right. So that's not necessarily true,
yeah.
but I get what they were trying to imply, and they're basically saying it doesn't prepare you for the real world. Yes.
Yeah. Because Charlotte is very black.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know. But going back to the whole Tyler the Play thing, and just what do you do in a situation? Now he was a kid, but what were you doing in a situation where a non-black person said something to you racist or offensive? Yeah. And I go to my mama before she retired. She told me this lady had called her a colored. She said she had referred to her as colored and was like, yeah, the colored lady or the colored speech, whatever her position. And then they was like colored. And she was like, yeah, I just think it sounds better than saying black. And in her mind, she thought that was the right thing to say. I think she might have meant to say person of color.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But she said the colored. And I'm like, so of course my mama filed a complaint and that lady got in trouble, even though I don't think she meant it like that. But still, you have to, what I learned early. My daddy told me, you have to check people the first time, because if you don't,
they keep trying to play with you in your face all the time.
Right. And so in your industry now, do you deal with a lot of non-blacks or no?
I would say it's a mixture. Like I work in news and I work in radio, and like I said, Charlotte is very black, so it's pretty well balanced. But back home, when I was in Illinois, I would be the only black person or one of the few black people, and everybody else would be white.
Yeah.
So I know what that's like as well.
Yeah, no, for sure, definitely. So I say that to say, when you're dealing with stuff like that, like I said, we don't have all the answers, but it's one of those things where sometimes it's like, do you ignore it or do you address it? But it's like, if you ignore it, they're going to keep doing it. It's a real slippery slope. And that's a great case in point with what I said about my mama, that situation. Yeah. Especially in a job situation, that's something I think United needs to take to the higher ups. Because I ain't going to lie, I'm a black man, and you see I'm, not no regular, but I write letters like a Karen.
Yeah, no. If you blacking at work and you got a problem with a white person, you take it to HR immediately, because guess what? They're gonna go to HR immediately on you.
Yeah.
I would say with Tyler and Lepley parents, if that was my kid, I would want to have a conversation with their parents in the school, because that's really all you can do.
But he was the only black, remember?
Hey, I don't care.
But you know what stuff happened to you as a kid, and you don't go tell your parents because you are in shock about it, and it's kind of like it made you feel away, but you don't really know how to feel, like you don't.
Yeah. No, for sure. I was just saying, if my kid was to tell me that, now I can see myself as a kid going through that and not telling my mom. So I think when the vagina was told to me, I didn't go tell my mom about it. It was just like, what is that? And he said, it was like, oh, okay,
But you know what? And it's funny we get into this. A lot of times too, especially as kids, we didn't feel, a lot of our parents, I saw something today. It was like one of my homeboys, Mike Jenkins, shout out to him. He was on TikTok talking about a kid has to feel comfortable. And a lot of times the parents, I know mine will say things like, well, you didn't talk about this, you didn't tell us this, but I didn't feel comfortable talking to y'all. Y'all weren't easy to talk to.
Yeah.
And it's like one was implosive and the other one was like, oh my God, we got to do. It's like made it like, okay, never mind. So it's like,
yeah.
what do you do?
Yeah. Growing up, they didn't make it. They didn't make it. They didn't give us a safe place or a
Yeah.
safe space to like talk about those things. Trust me. With my mom, it took me a long time to open up to her about stuff that I went through. I had to move to a whole nother state before I started telling her stuff.
Yeah, that's how I be. WWJD, what would you do? Ethically, morally correct things to do in a situation. Like I said, honestly, have a conversation. Like I said, go to HR if you are in the case. Because like I said, we're not kids. So it's like we can't go back to being a kid and deal with something racist. But somebody says something racist or really anything that makes you uncomfortable you have to address it. And the way you go about addressing it can be different. You might could pull it up to the side and have that simple conversation. You might have to go to HR. It just depends. But you do have to address it in some way. You cannot let it slide. And that's the main thing. Because as we know in the Bible, Jesus addressed things. Now, he wasn't always necessarily nasty and vicious, but there were ways he went about things that addressed it. And, because you have to, and that's just adulthood. We can't. Now there are instances, and I don't want to go too deep because you can argue that where some things you just ignore completely. But racism comments to a certain extent, you have to, I remember I was going viral a little bit, not too viral, but I definitely got a lot of flack on TikTok, and I did it on purpose because Adam Sandler wore, Adam Sandler, he wears those big clothes, and he, so he had that on at the Grammys, I think. And I asked this question and I clipped it out where it says, if he were black, would he get away with that? Now, I knew it was a skit, but I said they intended just to get the rise out the people. And boy, them non-blacks let me have it. And one of them said, you people. I said, you people. But it was just funny because it's like, the racism thing is always going to go up. You know. Now, I'm not saying intentionally stir up stuff, but I'm just saying,
I'm with stirring up stuff.
I am, but it to an extent.
Yeah.
So it's like, but the racist thing, that's just intentionally just provoking just to start something like.
Yeah. Now, I feel like a lot of my opinions are different. So I'm like, yeah, let's go ahead and get the people going. I love getting the people going. And I want all the nasty comments. I always say I'm cool with it as long as nobody out here trying to expose me. That's a whole nother situation. But yeah, you just going online and being like, shut up, nigger. Like, all right, bet, bro. I see you.
Final segment for today. What should men do? Men should always address things. There's ways you go about it. You don't have to yell at people. You don't have to swing on nobody. You can find healthy ways to address things. And like I said, if this is a friend or, that who maybe, because it is, in his case, that was a friend. If it is a friend, you grown like, hey, bro, we can't do that. Or like, I don't feel comfortable with you doing that or saying that. Or like, it make me feel away because it's like, he might be like, my bad, I didn't even mean like that. Or, in some cases, you might have a Hispanic friend or white, whatever. He might say, hey, bro, and he like, my bad, bro. I grew up around people who let me say that. So for me, it's normal. Where you might be offended by it, but I grew up that way. So I'm gonna work on it around you, but because you can't control how people react, but you can just say your face. And if they dismiss you, then you should just to let you know where y'all stand at, because it ain't like no, hey, bro, use a paper towel when you leave the bathroom. This is something with race and this is serious. So, the other stuff you can ignore, but that's something, if they kind of dismiss you, you kind of like, I see you. So yeah. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. Address things as best as you possibly can. You have to learn how to you have to know how to communicate to address things, because they could go really left in the friendship or at work. It can end badly. So if you do address something, I would say think twice before you bring it up, and make sure that you're talking to that person with some kindness, if you care. If you don't care, then, do what you do. But yeah, I definitely say make sure your communication skills are on point.
All right, good stuff. All right, y'all. So as we end off today, again, this week's episode, I've been playing with y'all. My birthday vlog for the YouTube channel I've been delayed. I still got to upload that. But excuse me. This week's episode is about tricking. My first in-person episode of this season. I'm trying to get at least 3 more before the season ends. I'm still trying to figure out the end of the season series, but tricking. We talk about it. We define it. We really go into it, and it's pretty funny. But of course, I asked them real questions as well. So make sure y'all tune into that. That will drop this Thursday at 6 p.m. And yeah, anything else you want to add up pub today? This was a great conversation.
Oh yeah, I appreciate you for having me on my podcast, Unconventional AF with Jaleel Wavey, available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. New episodes every Monday, real short and sweet. I dropped a new one today. I spoke about Diddy. I spoke about Nicki and Cardi, and I spoke about Molly Crum with First Take.
I talked about Nicki on my regular TikTok, and I had just said, who was worse, her or Kanye? And the people was going crazy. It was funny, but
yeah, nothing can be worse than Kanye.
I don't know. Nick, somebody put in my comments, they said Nicki said that what's the Juice WRLD ruined her birthday by dying on her birthday. So I'm know.
Sorry. I'm from nobody cares about Juice WRLD. Juice WRLD was around for like 2 years, bro. I'm just saying, bro. Like,
we gonna clip that. All right, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. This has been a great episode. PSA signing out. Always remember, keep your head up like your neck hurt. Remember who you are. Make your mind up. Don't let it make you. And always remember, I love us for real.